Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex topics, give you those essential insights. Today, we're digging into the life story of Donald J. Trump. It's fascinating and definitely controversial. We've drawn from a comprehensive biography tracing his journey, from real estate mogul all the way to the 45th president of the United States. Our mission for you today, it's really to pull out the most important nuggets from all this material, give you a clear, concise overview of someone who's, frankly, profoundly shaped modern history. Get ready for some maybe surprising facts and definitely some aha moments along the way.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable, isn't it, how one person could navigate these really distinct worlds, business, media, and politics,
Yeah.
and end up leading, one of the most powerful nations on earth. We'll definitely explore those key turning points, the decisions that really defined his unique path, so you can quickly grasp the essence of his story, the big themes.
Okay, let's start unpacking this. Where does it all begin? Our sources tell us Donald John Trump, born June 14th, 1946, Queens, New York, and into a family that was already pretty affluent, pretty influential.
Right, and that's key. His father, Fred Trump, was a major real estate developer. He focused on residential projects mostly, out in the outer boroughs of New York. So that background, that environment, it clearly set the stage for Donald's own career ambitions later on.
It's interesting, though, the personality traits noted early on. The material we looked at describes his temperament, even as a kid, as, quote, stubborn and aggressive, which apparently led to him being sent off to the New York Military Academy when he was just 13.
And that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How did those early experiences, those personality traits, how did they shape his later style in business and then, of course, in politics? That kind of directness, maybe combativeness, you saw it early on, seems like it became a hallmark. After high school, he did a couple of years at Fordham University. Then he transferred to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, got his economics degree in '68, and he was already getting his feet wet in real estate, like practical knowledge, while he was still studying.
Okay, so he learns the ropes in his father's company. But then 1971, that seems like a big moment. He takes charge and famously rebrands it, the Trump Organization. A very clear signal, right? Putting his own name, his own stamp on things.
Absolutely. And he wasn't just going to stick to Queens and Brooklyn like his father. No, he aimed straight for Manhattan. That was his big move. And you see these huge projects emerge. Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, that was '83, the Grand Hyatt Hotel.
Right.
And then, of course, Atlantic City. Several casinos, Trump Plaza, Trump Castle, the Taj Mahal.
So the name itself, Trump, it became more than just a name on a building. It became this brand, synonymous with luxury, power, maybe glamour.
Exactly. He was branding himself, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because even when things got rough.
And they did get rough in the 90s, right? Financial problems.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Several projects went under. Companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, which, Chapter 11 lets a company reorganize debt under court supervision. Became kind of a tool for him. But the amazing thing, according to our sources, is how he recovered. He really leveraged that brand value, the power of his name, to bounce back, that resilience, sometimes through pretty unconventional means. That's definitely a recurring theme you see.
So he builds this real estate empire, this powerful brand,
Yeah.
and then makes a really unexpected turn. Reality TV. 2004, The Apprentice on NBC. That show just catapulted him into a whole different level of fame, global celebrity status almost.
It really did. The format was simple, right? Competitors face business challenges, Trump's the judge. And that catchphrase,
You're fired.
exactly, became instantly iconic, part of American pop culture overnight. But more than that, the show crafted this incredibly powerful public image for him. Shrewd, decisive, a really capable businessman. And that image, it turned out to be incredibly valuable when he decided to jump into politics later on. It gave him recognition way beyond just real estate circles.
And it might surprise people, but the idea of running for president wasn't totally new for him in 2015. Our research shows he was thinking about it way back, like in the 1980s. He even made a brief run in 2000 with the Reform Party, though he pulled out pretty quickly.
Right, but 2015 was when it got serious. He officially announced he was running for the Republican nomination. And that slogan, "Make America Great Again," it instantly cut through, marked a really significant shift.
And in 2016, he did something pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
He beat out 16 other Republican contenders to actually win that nomination. His platform really seemed to hit a nerve for a lot of voters, stopping illegal immigration, building the wall.
Trade protectionism was big, too.
Yeah, trade. A tough stance on Islamic terrorism, tax cuts, bringing jobs back home. It was a potent mix.
And his style.
Yeah.
Wow. Aggressive, Definitely unconventional. He clashed constantly with the media, wasn't afraid of personal attacks, and his use of social media, especially Twitter, was just unprecedented for a presidential candidate. It really makes you think again about those early personality traits,
Yeah.
How much of that was just him? And how did that unique communication style connect so strongly with voters who maybe felt ignored by the usual political speak?
Then came election night, November 8, 2016. He defeats the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. And what's really striking there and important to remember about the U.S. system is he lost the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes, actually.
What?
But he won the presidency because of the Electoral College. He secured 304 electoral votes to Clinton's 227, a real demonstration of how that system works. Okay, so he wins. Moves from campaigning to governing, his presidency 2017 to 2021. Our source describes it as highly eventful and divisive. That feels like an understatement. Let's maybe unpack some of the key decisions from that time.
Sure. Well, on the economic front, you had the big tax cuts package in 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and a big push for deregulation across various sectors. That was core to his pro-business approach. And it's true that before COVID hit, unemployment rates did reach some historically low levels, particularly for certain demographics.
On foreign policy, he certainly makes some waves there, withdrawing from major international agreements.
Big ones. The Paris Climate Accord, the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA.
He also held those pretty historic meetings with Kim Jong-un of North Korea.
Yes, definitely unprecedented.
Oh.
He also pushed NATO allies really hard to up their defense spending, and of course initiated that trade war mainly with China. It all fit under that America First banner he campaigned on.
A definite shift in approach to global relationships and alliances.
Absolutely. And domestically, immigration was always front and center, a travel ban affecting several Muslim-majority countries.
Right, that caused huge controversy early on.
Huge. Plus, continued efforts on the Mexico border wall, and a very strict stance on DACA, the program for dreamers.
Then, the pandemic. COVID-19. That became a massive challenge for his administration, for the whole world. Our source material mentions he initially downplayed the virus's severity.
Yeah, there were definitely mixed messages coming out about things like mask wearing, later about vaccinations, and a real emphasis consistently on keeping the economy open. Balancing public health fears with economic concerns was clearly a major tension point.
And we can't forget his impact on the judiciary. That's likely to be one of his longest-lasting legacies.
Oh, absolutely. Appointing 3 Supreme Court justices,
Yeah.
Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. That significantly shifted the ideological balance of the highest court, likely for decades. A huge impact.
And speaking of unprecedented, Trump also holds the distinction of being the first U.S. president ever to be impeached twice.
That's right. The first time, in 2019, the House impeached him, alleging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. It related to demands allegedly made to the Ukrainian president regarding investigations into the Biden.
But the Senate acquitted him.
Correct. The Senate trial didn't reach the threshold for removal.
Then, the second impeachment in 2021. This one was different. It stemmed directly from accusations of inciting the January 6th riot at the Capitol building.
Again, the House voted to impeach. And again, the Senate acquitted him after he'd left office. Those events, both impeachments, really put a spotlight on the whole system of checks and balances, didn't they? The roles of Congress and the judiciary in overseeing the presidency.
So fast forward to the 2020 election. Trump runs for re-election against Joe Biden, and he loses. Our sources note he immediately began alleging widespread election fraud.
Yes, claims that were looked into and ultimately rejected by numerous courts, state election officials, even his own Justice Department officials.
Then came January 6, 2021. Those events, the attack on Capitol Hill by his supporters, our source calls it a stain on American democracy. Pretty strong words.
It was a shocking day. And in the aftermath, Twitter, his main communication platform, suspended his account, though Elon Musk later restored it. On January 20th, 2021, Inauguration Day for Biden, Trump left the White House, went down to his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida, and he notably skipped Biden's inauguration. He was the first president to do that in, 150 years?
So he's out of office, but not really out of the picture, is he? That raises the question of how a former president keeps influencing things.
Right. And he definitely has. He launched his own social media platform, Truth Social. And he's very clearly maintained his grip, his leadership role within the Republican Party. He remains a major force.
And looking ahead from that point?
Well, our material confirms that in late 2022, he announced he was running again for the 2024 presidential election. But, and this is huge, he's currently facing a whole raft of legal challenges. several criminal and civil cases,
Yeah, it's quite a list. Allegations about mishandling classified documents after leaving office.
attempts to overturn the 2020 election results, both federally and in states like Georgia.
Business fraud allegations in New York.
And that hush money payment case involving Stormy Daniels, it's an unprecedented legal situation for a former president, especially one running again.
It really fuels the debate around him, doesn't it? Both politically and publicly.
Absolutely. Yet, despite all these legal issues, his popularity among his core base, particularly, right-wing and rural voters, seemed to remain incredibly strong. It suggests he's going to continue being a really significant figure in the political landscape, regardless of the outcomes of these cases.
Okay, let's shift slightly. Beyond the politics, beyond the business, the sources also touch on his personal life.
Yeah.
Marriages, family.
Right. He was married to Ivana Trump first, from 1977 to 1992. They had 3 children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. Many people are familiar with them.
Then Marla Maples, from 1993 to 99, they have a daughter, Tiffany.
And his current wife, Melania Trump. They married in 2005, and they have 1 son, Barron. And it's worth noting, Ivanka Trump wasn't just family. She played a very active political role as an advisor during his administration.
So pulling all this together, the business, the media, the politics, the personal life, what does it mean for how people see him, his public image? Our sources consistently describe him as, well, a divisive figure. That seems undeniable.
Completely. For some, he's seen as a patriot, maybe a disruptor, a fighter against the system. They're drawn to that populist anti-establishment message.
But for others,
Others perceive him very differently. As authoritarian, maybe divisive, often described using terms like narcissistic, outspoken, sometimes insensitive, especially in his rhetoric. His critics often frame him as a potential threat to democratic norms and institutions.
while his supporters truly believe he's a protector of America, of its greatness.
Exactly. It highlights these incredibly stark contrasting perceptions. It's like people are seeing 2 completely different figures. And that really defines his public persona and reflects, frankly, a very polarized country.
So Donald Trump's story, as we've kind of walked through it today, it really is one of, you could say, unexpected success across these different arenas: business, media, politics. He stands as, without doubt, one of America's most controversial presidents, but also undeniably one of its most influential.
Yeah, and the material we dug into, it concludes with this really powerful statement. Donald Trump is not just a man, he is a movement. And what's compelling and maybe a bit unsettling for some is that his political journey, even with all the ongoing legal battles, it feels far from over.
This deep dive really does show how one person can, fundamentally transform and challenge the established way of doing things in multiple fields, leaving a really lasting impact, nationally and even globally.
Which leaves us, and you, with a pretty important question to think about, doesn't it? How might this kind of blending, this intertwining of business skill, media celebrity, and raw political ambition, how might that continue to shape leadership and shape public conversation in the years ahead? Especially now, given this unprecedented legal landscape that a former president finds himself navigating. It's uncharted territory.
Definitely something to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope you feel more informed and maybe even more curious now to explore the complexities of this really incredible ongoing story.